Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Kenya's most comprehensive political analysis show. Definitely, I'm talking about the Candid Talk, hosted by yours truly, Evans Okinyi. And of course, as usual, I'm joined by Professor Herman Manyora. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. Yes.
I can see you're busy. No, what is it called? Karibu niseme tweeting.
Xing.
Xing.
We are Xing.
Not really Xing, but then
Or posting.
Posting on
On
the
X. Yeah. No. I also have things to do on phone other than Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that you
It's my office also.
Okay, Prof. Now, let's have this conversation that all of a sudden has erupted out of nowhere. I'm hearing conversations of Baba the Sixth. Papers daily is talking of a push to have the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga vie for the sixth time come 2027. Let's begin from there. Isn't this idea too far-fetched?
What is far-fetched about an individual running for office?
Prof, let's just get it right.
If you got a kid who is 10 years and say they are running, then they don't qualify.
Okay.
But if you look at the conditions, Raila meets all the conditions. So how would it be far-fetched?
So it's a viable and very possible kind of venture right now in the country.
Raila can run. Why not?
Now let's get it real and let's actually get what this actually means for him and his Azimio counterparts as well as for the country,
Yes.
and whether this could perhaps tilt the political landscape of the country with regards to the 2027 general elections. If Raila vies, as you were saying here and as you've said here that he's not he's qualified to vie anyway, what are the chances that he wouldn't be, it wouldn't be an attempt in futility?
Let me tell you this. If Raila runs, he has a very good chance of winning.
How?
Why not? Tell me how not. Me, I'm saying he has a good chance. You are saying how.
Okay,
Me, I'm asking how. Why not? How not? Yes.
This you call a good chance of him winning?
Yes, it's just a good chance. First of all, Raila himself is votes. Let's agree there. Let's start there. There isn't a single politician in this country who was the sort of following Raila has. Not even President Ruto. Yes. Natural, organic following. Including Kenyans in their millions who can lay down their life for Raila Odinga. How can you doubt a man like that can win an election? Let me make it even better for you and the viewer. From 2007, which election has Raila lost fairly? None. So to say
debatable.
So the only there's nothing debatable. The only argument people seem to be having, they are basing it on on egg. What is it called? Age. But that again is a non-factor. Because the most powerful nation on earth in history, as Trump would put it, is America. Raila's age mates are contesting next year. Even older than Raila. I think Biden is older than Raila, I think. Yeah. And is running next year.
So you're saying for you
To occupy the most powerful office in the world. And then you are talking about Raila running a poor dirty third world country of 50 million people, which I can run from on my breakfast table every day without leaving home. This is a simple thing. Running Kenya is even not as complicated as running Coca-Cola. Yeah. Call Atlanta, Georgia now. Call them. Ask them or Google what is their budget. Budget yao ya advertising labda ndio hii budget yenyu ya nchi. I mean, people will take me on. I don't have the facts, but you see what I'm trying to say? California alone, the GDP of California, go and check how many African countries can fit in California's GDP. In other words, if Biden and Trump, old people, are bidding for the most powerful office in the world, how do you introduce an issue of age when it comes to Raila wanting to run to be president in Kenya? How?
Do you really think
The Catholics will be annoyed if you say age is important, because how old is their Pope?
Do you really think he wants to run?
You know how many Catholics we have in the world?
Of course, I know the quite a number.
Their Pope is a young boy, eh?
No, not really.
Look at the average age of captains of industry in the West, especially America. So look at the Supreme Court of America. It never dismisses people on the basis of age.
Okay. So you're saying here...
And the decision the Supreme Court of America makes are far-reaching decisions. So the only thing some people will have against Raila is age. So once we dismiss age, tell me something else that can stand in his way.
So for you, the
only thing that can stand in the way of Raila Odinga is a free and fair election, because he has proved very annoyingly that he cannot prepare to take power in a context where people want to derail his election.
Okay.
By doing things as simple as guarding your vote at the polling station. Just as simple as that.
Okay.
But beating Raila, my friend,
here you are, Prof.
It's not easy.
And of course,
including that 2027.
I believe you've got a little bit deeper understanding of Kenyan politics and how it's played in this country. Now, make me understand this. You've talked about the organic following that you're saying that Raila definitely has. I cannot actually dismiss that. But then he's had this organic following even in his 5 previous attempts.
Yes.
That we've not seen him. Okay, the organic following that you're saying, we've not seen him. We've not seen that lead him to the State House. What then do you think that would happen differently in 2027 that would make him actually head to the House?
I've already explained that. I've already said the only thing that stands between Raila and the State House, even in 2027, will be a free and fair election. If that election is not free and fair, if people are out to manipulate as they have done in the past, because it's not me saying it.
Okay.
Yes. It has been said by the Supreme Court of Kenya. So I'm not saying it myself. Without that, he would just be president. He stands as good a chance as his competitor, who most likely will be William Ruto. Any of them can win. The following is there, but the following does not announce who becomes the president.
Okay. All factors constant, let's do trust that the elections will be free and fair and transparent, as you're talking about here, and perhaps verifiable if that actually happens. Of course, you've got your reservations there, but then politics in this country, especially when it comes to general elections, they're all about numbers. Yeah? And let's get into that game of numbers and explain to me, surely, because here we are, definitely Ruto is going to vie again in 2027. Yes.
Yes.
And then, assuming Raila comes on board, he'll be vying against the same person whom he vied against in 2022.
Yes, yes.
I mean, it is the backing of the government of the day.
Yes.
And still, he failed to clinch that top seat. So right now, Raila comes in 2027. Ruto is there. And then there is also a Kalonzo factor that might actually influence all this.
Yes.
How then is Raila going to play it such that by the end of the day he's got the right numbers to propel him to presidency?
Let us get a few things out of the way. Number one, that Raila had government.
Okay.
It's now common knowledge that Raila didn't have government with him.
He didn't have the support of the government?
Which government?
In as much
at the very best, Raila had Uhuru Kenyatta.
The president.
At the very best,
Uhuru... And he was the government.
At the very best, Raila had Uhuru, but not government.
So Uhuru was not government?
So that's not government. The president is not necessarily government. So let's remove that out of the way. Let's deal with also the issue of Ruto beating. It's also a question of by how many votes.
Of course, we know that.
You know, the only way you can say, this one I've beaten them, I can beat them again, is if you had 8 million and Raila had 4 million or 5 million. But you are just there with him. What in racing is called photo finish. Ni farasi gani mapua itakuwa mbele kwa picha. Ile those panthers wanangoja picha itoke. Picha inaonyesha hii moja mapua iko mbele, hii ndio imeshinda. In a situation like that, can you really talk of victory? It is victory because someone must win. It is victory because in football, that one goal is all that is required. But it's not enough for you to go home very comfortable that even if the match was replayed tomorrow, you'll win. So that's Let's not talk about loss as if there was a major loss. Even before we go into manipulation, and I don't want us to go into manipulation, stolen election, no. Just by the numbers themselves. And that has been consistently so. In 2007, it was 300 votes, 300,000 votes. And the people said that those votes came from Nidhi, Kibaki, Raila. In 2007, it was 8,000 votes standing between Uhuru and Raila in terms of a rerun. In 2017, the numbers again were not much different. The Supreme Court again overturned the election. This year around, it was 200,000 votes. You can't say now this man was beaten, so he will be beaten again. So let's dismiss that. We've dismissed the government, but there's no evidence of government supporting Raila. There is no evidence that Ruto whitewashed Raila because of numbers. The numbers we are working with now, it is like a 50-50 thing, okay? Now let's go to Kalonzo. If Raila runs for elections, no doubt Kalonzo can't support him. It will be very difficult. It will be a crazy arrangement for a Kalonzo to support Raila. It will be so crazy. The only reason why Kalonzo may support Raila, he may look at Raila as a very old man and therefore any time he can succeed. He can tell people, nyinyi ni wajinga, hii kitu muone, hii mtihani amuone mmeibiwa. That could be the only reason. But a normal logic will say the canvas will bolt. Is that true?
Yeah.
So Raila's numbers will go down. Let's look at the equation. Kalonzo has bolted. For this thing to be significantly important, Ruto's numbers must remain intact. So you get it?
Yes.
Because these guys were 50-50. If you remove the Kamba numbers, Raila's numbers go down noticeably. And the Rutos remain up. So that will be the case if nothing happens to Ruto's numbers. Who tells you Ruto's numbers remain intact? Ruto's strength is from Mount Kenya, who gave him about almost 50% of the votes he got. Is it 47 or 53? They are tabulated somewhere. I have them on my phone. Minus Mount Kenya, Ruto goes lower than Raila, who will be minus the Kamba. Who says all the Kikuyus will run away from Ruto? They may not run away. All of them may be intact, and they will be higher than Raila. But who tells you that something may not happen in Mount Kenya so that somebody from Mount Kenya runs away with some votes? If somebody runs away with some votes from Mount Kenya, like 40% of those votes, Ruto goes lower than Raila, who will be minus the Kamba. This is politics. Secondly, Ruto is where he is because he has support from Mudavadi, support from the other people. Who can guarantee that they will be with him 2027? With the onslaught on the Mudavadis and the Wetangulas.
Right now we can only assume that they will...
All these things are assumptions. All this, including Raila running, is an assumption. Has he declared he's running?
No, not really. He hasn't said.
And if he runs, has the Kalonzo told you if Raila runs, I will not support him?
He is not.
And if he says he will not support him, does it guarantee he won't support him? So even we are...
But even if we are assuming, definitely, Prof.
Yeah,
Even if
all this we are speculating. Not speculation. We are just trying to take a number here, throw there, take another number, add it to this and say, okay, if you take this number and this, then the victor could most likely be so.
But definitely you see the possibility of Kalonzo leaving vis-a-vis the possibility of Mudavadi leaving Ruto. You can see.
That's what you think.
At least it's
That's
much possible for Kalonzo to leave.
I personally, as an individual, as Manyora, I could not see Wetangula and Mudavadi walking away from Raila, especially with Uhuru there. I couldn't see it. I couldn't. I tried to visualize Mudavadi going against Uhuru. I knew they could disobey, they could run away from Raila. I found it difficult to imagine they could run away from Uhuru. Wetangula and
Mudavadi.
Did they run or they didn't?
Of course they ran.
It's politics. Yeah.
So you're saying...
So it is quite possible that by 2027, Mudavadi could... let me also tell you this. Supposing when Kalonzo leaves, Raila tells Mudavadi bana, this thing we took it in 2007. Si kitu tulichukua, tukaibiwa, na Kibaki. Hebu tuchukue tena.
The matrices are different.
Things have changed already.
Things are different actually.
I'm saying immediately they changed.
By then, in 2007, Raila had the full backup of the Rift Valley region.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes.
So right now, Rift Valley is on its own.
Yes.
And of course, right now, the Rift Valley and Central, it's like they're working as a block.
You know, that Central province gave Raila almost 1 million
So
votes.
even if Mudavadi could actually support him. Now, look at the number of votes that Mudavadi brought even to Ruto the other day. How significant would they be? Can they be compared to the
You know, when you look at votes, you don't look at votes in isolation. Do you know, for example, 700,000 Luos? I'm not talking of Nyanza, I'm talking of the 4 Luo counties. 700,000 Luos did not vote when Raila was so close to getting power. If half of them voted, Raila would be in State House. Hata hiyo wizi ilikuweko ingemsaidia kama ilikuweko. Am I right?
Of course, you're right on that.
So what am I saying? I'm saying there are always dynamics. Mudavadi coming on board. You know why people fault Mudavadi, perhaps including yours truly? It sends some signals, some psychological signals that affected, for example, Raila's votes. Don't look at it in terms of just how many votes did Mudavadi take to Ruto. No, you don't look at it in isolation. Even in 2013, you look at it in terms of the impact, psychological impact. Even some people who believed in Raila would have voted, gave up. So, kama kila mtu amemtoroka, huyu ashindi.
Does that psychological impact definitely translate into numbers?
Yeah, that's what I'm explaining.
Okay.
Some people could refuse to vote. Can just say, I'm wasting my vote. Raila is going to lose. He has lost Wetangula. He has lost Mudavadi. Where is he going? And then people they don't register, they don't vote. There may not be many. But given that Ruto didn't win by 1 million over Raila, it means those apathy created absentee votes, and the people who didn't vote could have made a difference. So Mudavadi it can send a signal in the country that this time round things are different. So I'm just saying.
And of course, we are going to see, if you go that direction, then of course the post of the deputy president would be a key factor therein.
Yes.
Because how do you bring Mudavadi on board and you do not give him that position? How do you bring Kalonzo on board without giving him that position?
But I've said, if Kalonzo refused to back Raila,
so then Raila...
As almost everybody would by now expect, so
then
Raila could take Mudavadi
as the deputy.
Yeah.
What about the Central Kenya? Of course, we are...
And I've told you, Central Kenya, there are also dynamics there. Watu kama kina Jimmy Wenjigi, kina nani, hawalali, pia hao wanamezea hiyo kitu mate. Do you think, if things take the same route they are taking, if things go the way they are going, if there's nothing drastic Ruto does, and the country is annoyed the way it is annoyed, do you think the Kikuyus will be spared? They will not feel the anger. That excitement, all you need to interfere with Ruto's numbers in the mountain is to cut the excitement. Tutamuka asubuhi, twende tuchague Ruto, tugawe. That excitement, that euphoria, once you remove it, you remain with the hard votes. Those votes may not be significant enough to make him have the numbers to scare Raila if Raila is running. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Raila has been associated by what the other side, of course, the federal leaders, the leaders like the National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula, Mudavadi, they talk of politics of betrayal. They're saying that we backed him up back then, but then when it reaches it's time for him to actually scratch our back, then he actually shies away. Do you then think that perhaps this ghost could haunt Raila and maybe cost him if at all he decides to vie?
Then why can't Ruto back Gachagua next election, 2027? Oh, that's childish reasoning. Raila never became president. So it's like you backed him, he became president, did his 2 terms, then he refused to back you, he backed an outsider. Or he agreed on 1 term, like Kibaki, then come the end of the term, like Tony Blair against Gordon Brown. Then again he refuses to exit after none of that happened. Raila never became president. How would you then expect him to back you on the basis of your support? But more critically, winning an election is about stature. It's about the person. It's about the charisma. It's about many things. When you check the boxes, tick 1, 2, 3. If the boxes are 10, Wetangula unatiki ya moja, ya pili unatafuta hakuna. Mudavadi unaweka hapo 2, Raila anaendelea kutiki mpaka 10. How would you then front with? Imagine fronting Wetangula against Ruto in 2022. Now sometimes, Gumo told these people in 2007, the Pentagon, they were struggling for the ticket ODM. Gumo told them, sure, please go home. Why, you are just wasting our time. The candidate is Raila, and you all know. So 2007, 2013, 2017, 2022, the candidate has been Raila. You could not say Raila kaa kando tuweke hapo Kalonzo. It was not going to work. You would have lost even before you started. But things are changing in 2027. In fact, many people will be questioning Raila's candidates. At that point, if you are bringing Kalonzo, in fact, it will be received better than if it was Raila. In terms of being received by the people. Yeah. You get it?
Well, and good, of course, the papers are talking about pressure being mounted on Raila to vie in 2027, talking about Baba the 6th there. And I wonder whether this pressure could be coming from the people like you here.
Me, I'm not Raila's advisor, I'm Raila's friend.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you can weigh in on this conversation and tell us what you think about the statement that has been going around, these rumors that have been going around, that there's a lot of, somehow, some pressure being piled up on Raila to vie again for the 6th time. What do you think about him being on the ballot come the year 2027? Well, keep it here at Herman Manyora. Of course, we'll keep you up to date with comprehensive analysis of everything taking place within this country and abroad. Please stay tuned to some of our programs that will be coming up next. Jadel Kabir is always here, as well as Richard Munje. If at all you're watching us for the first time, kindly subscribe to this channel here. Till we have this conversation again, have yourself a lovely day. My name is Evans Okinyi.